Hey y'all, welcome to Peyton Energetics. I'm Peyton, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about Starseed Entry protocols. So what does that mean? Well, what we are going to be talking about is some of the different ways that starseeds enter the Earth experience, ways that we enter our Earth incarnation. Because believe it or not, we are not all born into these normal human bodies. That is not the only way that starseeds come to the Earth game. So we're going to be talking about some of the different ways starseeds come to planet Earth. But first things first, in case you are not familiar with what a starseed is, I always like to start out by sharing my definition of a starseed. And this is not the only way to define a starseed, but it's kind of the most common definition that you'll see in the spiritual community. And so when we use the term starseed, we are generally talking about someone who is incarnated here on planet Earth right now, but whose soul originates from another star system. So a starseed is different from someone who has only experienced incarnations on the Earth plane. And sometimes these souls are called Earth souls. So we use starseed as a way to kind of give a different term to those of us who are incarnated in human form, but whose soul actually originate in another star system. So if you have seen my previous videos, you know that most starseeds come from one of 6 or 7 star systems that work very closely with Earth right now. So most starseeds tend to come from the Pleiades, Sirius, Orion, Andromeda, Arcturus, and Vega or Lyra Vega. So those are the star systems that are sending the most starseeds to Earth right now. And the reason starseeds are here on Earth and why we talk about them so much in the spiritual community is that starseeds are here to support humanity through the ascension process. And they do that, of course, by holding a very high frequency. So starseeds are here to help support humanity, help break humanity out of the 3D matrix. And so this program of sending starseeds to Earth has been going on for many decades now. It started actually in the late 40s, but really kicked into high gear in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And now we have millions of starseeds on planet Earth. So what we're going to be talking about in today's video is how do all the starseeds actually get here? Because my understanding until about a year or so ago was that everyone was just born into their human body the way any normal Earth soul is. So I was under the impression for a while that we were all just born into the normal human life process. But as you know, I work with Pleiadian and Sirian guides. And so as they have been sharing more information with us about the Starseed program and what we are all here to do, they have also been sharing information about how we get here. So in case this is new to you, I wanted to share it because you may find that you fall into one of these alternate categories of types of starseed entry or ways that we enter the Earth plane. So most starseeds enter the Earth game just the same way that any Earth human enters the world, through a traditional incarnation, starting with the normal human birth process, and live their entire life in the Earth game just like any other human soul does. So this is actually, according to the guides, the most common way for starseeds to enter the Earth experience, is to do it just the way any other human would. So for most of us who are entering the Earth game through the normal incarnation cycle, where we are just born into human bodies like everyone else, what happens then is that the starseed is then on a mission over the course of his or her life to awaken herself, to figure out what her starseed mission is. And so that's why we see with so many starseeds that there are certain characteristics that can tip you off to the fact that you may be a starseed yourself. So some of the things that I see most commonly in my starseed clients are, first of all, many starseeds are extremely sensitive. So this may show up as being just a heightened sensitivity overall. It may show up as extreme empathy. So many starseeds are very empathic, which means they're very good at tuning into people's emotions, reading people's energy fields. So that is a very common characteristic that can be an indicator that you're a starseed. And another thing that is one of the hallmarks of the starseed and one of those characteristics that most starseeds share is a tendency to feel a little bit like an outsider. And this can range from being very mild, just a sense that you are a little separated from the people in your life, your friends, your family, your community, to feelings of extreme isolation, to being very homesick, even if you don't know where home is. So this feeling of not fitting in is very, very common in starseeds. So if that is something that you have experienced throughout your life experience, it may be an indicator that you are a starseed. So most starseeds come into the human game the way everyone does, which is that they are just born into a human body, live a full human life, but they are just doing so with a different mission. They are coming in with a soul mission to help support the ascension process. And how they do that is through their frequency, through their vibration. Because as y'all know, you are light workers and starseeds. Everything is vibration. Everything is frequency. So starseeds coming from star systems that are very advanced, very highly evolved, bring the frequency of their home star system into their Earth incarnation. And that means that the average starseed has a much higher core frequency than the average, especially non-awake human. So starseeds then, when they come in the normal way, they are born into a human body and just live their normal or somewhat normal human life. It's often a process of awakening is one of the goals of the starseed, and that is to awaken themselves to discover what their starseed mission is, because some starseeds come in with very specific soul missions, which is not just to support the ascension process in general, which is the general goal of starseeds, but to do so in a very specific way. So some starseeds are here to work on the grid systems, to anchor the 5D grid, to work on the ley lines of the planet, to do very specific geographic work. Other starseeds are here to be teachers and healers. And so if you are a starseed and you're drawn to teaching and healing modalities, that may be your starseed mission. Other starseeds are here to do very specific frequency work. So you may be a starseed who is here to anchor a particular frequency, the frequency of your home star system, into the Earth grid system, and to hold that frequency as often as you can. We call these starseeds anchors, and that is something that is just a term to show that their starseed mission is to be a holder of a specific frequency as often as they can and as long as they can. There are many other starseed missions, and if you want some help figuring out what yours might be, I have a whole video dedicated to that. But one other category of starseed mission that I always like to mention is that of the transmuters. And transmuters are the powerhouses of the starseed community because they are here to shift and transmute huge collective energies. So if that is something that you feel drawn to, it may be an indicator that that is your particular starseed mission, to be here to help humanity transmute some of these very dense archetypal energy patterns that have kept Earth trapped in 3D for so long. So again, starseeds come in with different missions. Most starseeds come in the same way every other human does, and that is just through the normal birth and incarnation process. And if you are a starseed who is entering the Earth process through the normal incarnation cycle, then as we said, one of the starseeds' main objective is to awaken themselves, and not only awaken themselves and discover their mission, but help support humanity through the ascension process. But it is really important to note, not all starseeds will awaken. Just like in the 3D world that we see around us, there are those who will choose to awaken in this lifetime and those who don't. So just because someone is a starseed does not guarantee they will awaken. But many starseeds, and especially if you are drawn to the spiritual path, to doing your inner work, probably is an indicator that you are one of the starseeds who has successfully awakened yourself. And again, that is one of our big challenges as we come through the veil of amnesia, is to find our way back to who we truly are, to awaken ourselves. But it is not a guarantee. There are many starseeds, and I often hear the guides say that there are, at this point, hundreds of millions of starseeds on the planet. And that number really surprised me. I expected it to be in the millions, but I'm not sure I really saw that it was going to be in the hundreds of millions. But I don't have a specific number on that, but it's just an indicator of how big the starseed family truly is. Now, there is another way that starseeds often enter the Earth game, and that is through a process that's known as walk-ins. And if you're in the spiritual community, you have probably heard of this concept of a soul walk-in. And from my experience, it seems like there is a lot of confusion, misunderstandings about what walk-ins actually are. So I've been asking the guides, how is this whole concept of soul walk-ins relevant for starseeds? And so what the guides have said is this is another way that highly advanced souls from the star civilizations are entering the Earth experience. So what happens in a walk-in situation, according to my guides? And as y'all know, I work with a guide team that is primarily Pleiadian and Sirian. So my information tends to come from that slant. And your guides may explain this slightly differently. Especially if you have guides from very different star systems, maybe Arcturian or Andromedan guides. They may actually have a different way that they explain this, or they may tell you different ways that those star systems send starseeds to Earth. So this can vary according to the star system that you are talking about. So again, I tend to come from a Pleiadian perspective, but let me know in the comments below, have your guides shared with you other ways that they send starseeds to Earth? That would be a fascinating thing to start talking about in the comments, because I know the Andromedan starseeds out there. I love you guys. You kill me. You always send me the best stories and memories of your experience with your guides in that system. So let me know in the comments below if your star race has even different ways of sending starseeds to planet Earth. What I'm going to share with you today is what the Pleiadians have said are the most common ways for souls to enter the Earth game. So as we are talking about walk-ins, what we are generally talking about is when there is an exchange of souls during an incarnation. So someone goes about living their human life. They are born in a normal human body, but at a prearranged time, that soul leaves the body and another soul comes in. Now, I know that this is not the explanation that everyone out there gives for soul walk-ins. Some people I have heard say it is just another aspect of the same soul. So as I always say, use whatever resonates with you. I'm going to share what my guides have given me, but that is never to say it's the only way to look at this. So the way that my guides have explained it is that one soul will, during the course of its incarnation, leave its body, and by arrangement, a specific other soul will step in and take over that physical body. And so this is what is called a walk-in experience. And in my experience, this seems to be something that is fairly rare. I don't see this in many clients. In fact, I'm not sure if I have ever seen it in a client or a student. So I don't know how common this is, but it definitely does happen. So in a walk-in experience, what is going on is there is an agreement between two souls, or if you like to look at it, two aspects of the same soul, two parts of the same oversoul. I don't get too deep in the weeds as to how that part of it works, because it differs depending on who your guide is, how they will explain it to you. So basically, the way I look at it is that one soul will leave the body and another will step in. And it is because of a pre-incarnation agreement. So this is something that the two beings, or parts of the same being, however you look at it, agreed to before the incarnation. This is generally not something that happens that is randomly decided during an actual lifetime. So this is not something that you could say, I want to leave my life and let someone come in. Would definitely not recommend trying that. But this is something that is generally agreed to before the incarnation. So why would someone do this? What is the point of this? Well, one of the reasons to set it up this way is because the soul that is going to walk in only wants to be in the incarnation for a particular period of time. Maybe the soul that is walking in doesn't need to go through the entire childhood and education process and young adulthood. Maybe the soul just wants to come in once the being is fully grown and established to accomplish a particular mission. So according to my guides, one of the reasons people come in as a walk-in is because they only intend to be there for a particular part of the life cycle. They don't need to be there for the whole kindergarten, middle school routine. So they step in at a prearranged point in the incarnation to experience a certain part of the life cycle. So what this lets the walk-in soul do is come in and execute a particular mission without having to sit through the entire incarnation cycle. So walk-ins tend to come in with very specific jobs that they are intending to do. So if you had a particular mission that you only wanted to come in once the human body was fully grown, educated, trained, and you wanted to come in just to execute a particular starseed mission, that might be one reason you would choose to enter as a walk-in. Now, one thing that's good to know about walk-ins is when the soul, we'll call it the second soul, steps into the first soul's body, they do take on the physical body of the soul that is departing. They take on the memories of that soul. So the soul that is a walk-in will still have access, for the most part, to the memories of the body it's stepping into. Otherwise, as you could imagine, that would be pretty difficult to operate if you were stepping into a body and had no memory of yourself. Although I'm guessing that probably happens on occasion, but it's not desired. So the walk-in soul will step in, taking over the body of the being that has agreed to depart, take over the memories of the body, and the important thing, also take on the karma of the body that it is stepping into. So this is not a case of possession. This is something that is prearranged by the two souls or two parts of a soul before the lifetime for very specific purposes. So how do you know if you are a walk-in? Well, there are some signs that accompany this. As you can imagine, it would be a fairly dramatic life event to have one soul leave the body and a whole different soul step in. So there are some signs that may indicate that someone is a walk-in. One of those is, as you can imagine, a profound change in personality. All of a sudden, the being likes different food, has totally different hobbies and interests. So there can be a very dramatic change in the personality, the characteristics of someone who is a walk-in, because again, you are having an entirely different soul, an entirely different consciousness moving into a certain physical body. So that is very common to have extreme changes in personality. People often say that walk-ins are just suddenly not like themselves. They're like a whole different person. And that's because that's pretty much what has happened. They are a whole different person. So extreme personality changes, likes and dislikes can be very common because, again, you're having an entire shift of the consciousness that is running that physical body. It is also common, according to the guides, for walk-ins to experience some memory loss. Some missing time can be common in walk-ins. And a lot of times, according to the guides, walk-ins can happen with people who have had near-death experiences. So I don't know the specifics on it, but because this is such a dramatic event, where one consciousness is replacing another, you can imagine that it's generally accompanied by a very dramatic shift in the life of that physical body, that person. So extreme signs of personality change, missing time, near-death experiences, something that signifies a significant dramatic change in the life of that individual are often explained or described in walk-in experiences. And finally, another thing that is very common in walk-ins is to be very disconnected from their past. And this may show up as having chunks of time that they don't remember from the childhood of the body they are walking into, or it can show up as just a disinterest, a disconnect with the past, again, because in a sense, the past didn't really belong to them. So while they still have access to those memories of the physical body that has experienced the walk-in, the new soul may be completely disinterested in what the body or what the personality did prior to the walk-in experience. Again, because the walk-in is there to accomplish a particular task, to be there at a particular point in time, or to do something very specific. So this is something that is a way that starseeds enter the Earth experience from certain star races. But according to the guides, this is not super, super common. And you might think that when I first heard about the whole walk-in phenomenon, that it was something that starseeds used as a way to enter the Earth. I kind of wondered why we didn't all do that. Because why come in and go through the whole non-awake part of your life if you can just pop in to do your soul mission? But the guides say it doesn't generally work like that. That for the most part, most starseeds enter through the normal being born as a human baby bit and live out their human life on the awakening path, if they can find their way to it, that is actually how it generally happens. But it is important to know, in case you have been feeling some of these symptoms that I've described that relate to the walk-in experience, that it's important to know that that is another way that starseeds do come into the Earth game. So let me know in the comments below which of these entry protocols is resonating with you. Can you tell which of these categories describes your starseed entry protocol? Let me know that in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the like button if you haven't done that yet. Now, the third way that starseeds can enter the Earth game is through a process that's known as immersion technology. And this is something that sounds straight out of our science fiction movies, and it kind of is. But what happens when a starseed enters through immersion technology is that their physical body is actually very secure in the higher dimensions, and they are actually participating in the Earth game, almost like a virtual reality experience. So this sounds like complete science fiction, but how does this actually work? First off, this is a technology that, according to the guides, is very common in almost all of the advanced star races. And that is something called the use of immersion pods. So what this technology does is it lets them simulate another experience. So immersion technologies are used for everything from training experiences, entertainment, to very important complex simulations like sending a starseed to another star system to live out an incarnation. So what happens in this protocol, which is used by the Pleiadians, it is used by the Andromedans. I have had several Andromedan starseeds reach out to me and describe this process, that they have memories of that. So let me know in the comments below, is this something that your guides have shared with you? Because I love hearing how the different star races use this technology. So with immersion technology, the very, very most simple way to look at it is it's like a virtual reality video game. So the person will step into this game, into sometimes it is a pod or a cell or a container. And what happens is a computer interfaces with their brain and sends their brain certain stimuli that lets the brain interpret it as if they are having that experience. So your computer can let you have any experience that you choose, including being a starseed on planet Earth. So what happens is your brain then, with the help of these very advanced computers that they have in the higher realms, will send stimulation to a brain to let it have very detailed experiences. It will trigger all of your sensory information, your sensory inputs. So it is as if you are seeing things, touching things, feeling things, just as if you were doing it in actual reality. But it's all a computer program. It is all sensory information being fed into your brain, or frequencies being fed into your brain, which your brain then interprets as a very real experience. So this sounds so completely science fiction, but the guides assure us that this is very common. This is a technology that they use for many, many things. And one of the ways that they use it is to send starseeds into the Earth simulation. So if you are a starseed who is in the Earth experience through a immersion type simulation, basically, your actual real body is still in your original star system. It could be on your home planet. It could be on a massive ship where the immersion pod technology is being operated from. So this person who is doing this immersive experience would feel and experience everything as if they were physically here on planet Earth. And as the guides tell us, the Matrix is a whole simulation anyway, and we are just starting to wrap our human brains around this because it defies everything we have ever been taught and thought of as reality. But this is a way that starseeds are coming into the Earth game. Basically, they're not even here. Their body is in their home star system. They are just having a computer experience of being here. And again, this sounds like pure science fiction. Still sounds like science fiction to me, even though I have heard quite a lot about it. But this can be another way that starseeds participate in the Earth game. And there are certain advantages to being a starseed that enters the Earth game in this way. One of the main reasons is that you don't pick up karma, and you can't get stuck in the Earth matrix and the Earth reincarnation cycle, because it is so easy when we are born through the normal incarnation process where we're born like any other human. As we have all seen, this is probably the story of all of our spiritual journeys. It's very easy to get sucked into the 3D game, to not awaken, to fall into the fear, the 3D matrix manipulation. So it's very easy for souls to get lost when they actually send their physical body into the Earth game. It's very, very risky. And that's one of the reasons why our galactic family says that they consider starseeds who are taking on coming to Earth in physical form to be the absolute gangsters of the universe, because we are taking on the hardest assignment there is, because it is so easy to get trapped in the Earth game, because the matrix is so compelling. So one of the ways that star races can let their members have the starseed experience is through an immersion technology, because your body is essentially always safe and protected in your home star system. You are just having the physical experience of being in the Earth game. But in reality, it's just a computer game. It's a simulation. So you don't risk getting bogged down with Earth karma. You don't risk getting trapped and not waking up. And as we know, not all starseeds will wake up in this lifetime. So there is no guarantee once we incarnate that we're going to awaken to know the game that we are playing. So this is one of the reasons why this type of very advanced technology is used by star races, because it protects the person from getting trapped in the Earth matrix, which can be a very real concern. And the other advantage of coming into the Earth game through immersion technology is that you can end the game anytime. You don't have to lock yourself into an entire incarnation cycle the way most starseeds do, because it's all a game. You can program it. You can program it to come in for a certain point in time, to come out whenever you want to come out. So it is a much safer way to go about the starseed experience, is through this immersion technology. So some of the signs that this may be the way that you chose to enter the Earth incarnation is apparently the way this can play out for the human starseed, or the human that is having the starseed experience, is that their entire reality can feel false. So it's almost like they can tell that they are living in a computer game. So if that is something that you have always felt, that you know what you see as reality isn't actually reality, that can be one of the indicators that you have entered through an immersion process. But even if that is the way that you entered the Earth game, as long as you are still here, you have the same physical experience that all the rest of us are having. It's just the reality is it's all a computer projection. So this is something that is still taking me some time to wrap my brain around. It's a newer concept to me, and it still sounds a little science fiction-y, not gonna lie. But the guides say that this is a very common technology in the higher realms, and it is used to have a more protected starseed experience. Because again, you don't risk getting lost in the game. And that is a huge risk that we all took on when we incarnated into the Earth school. So those are some of the most common ways that starseeds enter the Earth game. Of course, most of us are just born into human lives, live our human lives like everyone else, but that's not the only way. So let me know in the comments which of these entry approaches sounds like you, because if you are someone who thinks you are here through immersive technology, let me know what that is like. I'm fascinated with this concept. Still haven't completely accepted that that is real, but I trust that the guides, when they tell me that this is a technology we are just not familiar with yet. So let me know if this is something that your guides have been describing to you, because I would love to know more about it. So drop that in the comment below. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button and the like button if you haven't done that yet. And I'll see you soon, Starseeds. Bye.